I'm Jenny Sauer. I'm a member of the End User Tools Group, and I'm here to present the European cherry fruit fly trapping data collection using ArcGIS Field Maps. I'm going to go ahead and turn that sound off so as people join, they can join quietly and not interrupt. So no big deal there. Okay, so we're going to talk about collecting data in the field for European cherry fruit fly. And we use this application, ArcGIS Field Maps. This is the much anticipated reboot. So we use this same Field Maps app, and this is just an update for 2023. I believe that it is intended for this application, this mobile app, to be used in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York. And so you'll need three things as a data collector. You'll need a device. You'll need to feel familiar with Field Maps, the application, and you'll want to know survey protocol pretty well. And the survey protocol is the responsibility of Shaharra Usnick. She is your National Operations Manager. And so this training here today won't cover those things. I'm just going to dive into using that Field Maps application and show you how the data is meant to be collected in the application itself. But you'll want to be sure that you have those three things: mobile device, feeling pretty comfortable with field maps, and also survey protocol under your belt. So I won't cover that today, but I will point you to a couple of things that will take you to some resources. So first of all, I've put two links in the chat. And the first link here is this Mobile Data Collection Tools website. This is a public-facing APHIS website, so you can access this from any web browser at any time, and anyone can see this if they need to. The top half of it is meant to kind of give you like documentation support, and the bottom half, if I scroll down, is a video gallery. So the top half here has some support for ArcGIS Field Maps. Under the general training documents, there's a user guide there for you. And also in the video gallery, Field Maps has support. Let's see, it's under the category Foundations, and there are 10 self-paced videos that you can walk your way through. They're all really short. I think in all it would take about an hour. If you haven't checked out these videos, or if you're new to Field Maps, I would recommend doing this, taking yourself all the way through these 10 little videos and making sure you feel pretty confident. Even if you used Field Maps last year, I think I'd still recommend that you have a look at these videos. You might want to pick and choose a few just as reminders, probably looking into this disconnected workflow, downloading a map area, maybe also this daily data sync video here. So these are resources here for you to feel comfortable with Field Maps itself as an application. As far as the PEST program, we also have a whole page on PEST program specific documents, and every map that my group makes an app for has these backup documentation for you. So if we look for European cherry fruit fly in the list and open that up, we have two documents here. We have a quick reference, like just a little cheat sheet, and then we have a user manual. And so if I go through something too quickly here today, or maybe you prefer to see it written out, that user manual will take you through all of the steps with little screenshots and things like that. So make sure you're making use of this. Going back to that main page, some of you might notice that we're recording here today. Am I recording? Yes. Okay. It gave me a little pause, like, uh-oh, did I press record? So we're recording this training here today, and this video will also show up in this video gallery. I put it into the category of PEST programs. You could search for it by title, but it will show up here in the top left as a new video. Just give me like about a week to get that processed and approved and placed here, but you should be able to have that as a reference point later on, maybe for colleagues that couldn't make it here today, or a lot of people like to use it as a little checkpoint. Maybe you start trapping for ECFF for a couple weeks, and then you have a look at the video and make sure that you're still using that app right. So that'll show up here too. The second link I gave you is a training quiz, and I give it to you early. I really don't want you to feel pressure or anxiety over a quiz. There's a couple things that it does. It helps all of us out a little bit. This third question here asks for your email address, and you'll want to type that in with care. There's an automation that I have going. So if you complete this quiz and you submit it, it will look for your email address here in this question, and you'll get a little automated email that just says, congratulations, you completed the training for European cherry fruit fly. So that might be nice for you to have. I like to keep track of the things that I do like this through the year, look back over it. Maybe your supervisor would like to see that you completed the training. This is how you get that little kind of credit written that you attended. It also helps me out a little bit so I can kind of see that what I'm teaching in these trainings that you're getting, and it's an opportunity for you to test your knowledge while it's fresh. So it really helps you remember how these things work. So I would encourage you to do this. I really don't care if you do it as I talk, whatever works for you, but I would really encourage you to go ahead and take this quiz just to kind of help us all out on that knowledge check. What are we going to talk about today? Let me pull up that PowerPoint again. There's our beautiful little fly. I always kind of like to walk through the sign-in process for field maps. I'm not going to go into as much detail as you might need if you're a new user. Make sure you use those videos for that. But I do want to bring it up because there is some nuance there just to keep fresh in mind some important things. And we overview the disconnected workflow. Again, there's videos, but I just want to overview the importance and point out the important steps there. And then we'll look at the layers involved where you will be collecting the data for European cherry fruit fly. We'll look at that data form. I have my iPad set up so that you can watch me kind of do a little demo collecting data. I also have my iPhone here. I'll try to remember to show that view as well. I know some of us use iPads and some of us use iPhones, and I like to use the iPad to demo. It's a bigger screen, so it's easier for you all to see, but I am going to try to remember to show you on the iPhone as well. And then this last bullet point, by the time we get to reminders, I hope that I've already really covered these points and they really are just reminders. But it's kind of like a little trigger for me to make sure that I've covered those points too. So we'll kind of go over some things that we want to make sure we remember from the training. So just diving in, field maps is it's pretty new to PPQ. We started using it last year. Many of you may feel pretty comfortable using it. It is a pretty intuitive mobile app. Again, like I said, there is a user guide and there's a video series that you can use to kind of make sure that you feel really comfortable using the application. And again, that's on that mobile data collection tools webpage. When you first open field maps, though, you get this view. It asks you to sign in, and it gives you some options here. We've got sign in with ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, or skipping the sign in entirely. And us federal users, our data is housed in a secured instance, and that is the Enterprise instance. So we're always going to pick sign in with ArcGIS Enterprise. So we'll tap this. And when you tap that option, you get a kind of menu of options again. You have originally the option to specify a new URL or scan code. And we're going to choose specify a new URL, which opens the keyboard and allows you to type that in manually. Some of you probably are already noticing there is a URL sitting here on top. So once you've done that one time, Field Maps does try to help you out. It holds on to what you've put in the past. And so I've previously specified the new URL and typed that in, and now it's giving me the option of that URL, which I can just go ahead and tap that directly to sign in. Now, this URL is important because we do have two, and this is actually a quiz question too, so here's a freebie for you. We have an official map that is made for official data collection on ECFF. And in order to sign in and locate that map, we'll use this top URL. And then my team also makes a copy of that map so that you can use it for play, for training, for practice. In this case today, I'll use it for our demonstration. And that is accessed by signing in using this URL. So I'll give you a couple boxes so you can see the difference here. The top URL is where real data, official data, should be collected. It's maps.mrp, etc. And then this bottom URL is really a staging portal, maps-stg, so think of that as stage staging instance, and only play or practice data should be entered in the maps found in this URL. And so the thing you want to keep clear and be very careful of is just be sure that real or official data is not being entered into a training map, and vice versa, that training or play data is not being entered into an official map. And the way that you do that is in that sign-in process. So if you're in doubt, sign out, make sure you've signed into the correct portal instance, and these are the two URLs that you want to keep track of. That said, it is pretty easy to tell, or there are some little tells on whether you're in a training map or not. For instance, our training maps, the title of the map starts with the word training in all caps. It's right there in the title, and in the thumbnail, it usually says training as well. And the base map for the map in these apps, the training map is kind of a dull light gray combo, but in the official map, it's a beautiful, brilliant imagery. So I'll try to show you the difference so that you can kind of spot that right off the bat, but just keep this in mind when you're collecting data. Only official data in the official map, only play data in the play map, you know, keep play where play belongs kind of thing. We don't want to mix those up. Just overviewing this disconnected workflow, it is really important to work disconnected if that is at all possible. And I know for some of us with iPhones, that tends to be, doesn't seem like the easiest course of action, but it has the best results for data collection. One of our biggest issues with data collection is an interrupted sync. And if you are remaining connected, the data is constantly attempting to sync with that online server. And that said, it's pinging the server with every move to the map and every addition there. So if everyone is connected, it's putting a burden on that server to work well connected. There's two reasons. What was the third? Oh, the third reason is sometimes our servers have problems during the day. It doesn't happen often, but every once in a while it happens. And if you are working disconnected in that you have prepared and you have an offline map area in your device, you're unaffected. You're able to continue your workflow, continue collecting data into your offline map area out in the field. Maybe you delay a synchronization until that's fixed, but your workflow can continue. So that's a really a big bonus. So really what it comes down to is what's in this red box. If you prepare ahead, then your data entry goes really smoothly. And the prep is really just, well, you have a reliable Wi-Fi connection, prepare by downloading a map area for yourself. Many times this is done one time with a little bit of patience and it lasts the whole season. So really it's kind of preparing for a road trip one time. And then you can disconnect from Wi-Fi. I always recommend this last bullet point here, a parking lot test. And what I mean by that is, you know, just make sure that that map area works. So before you really leave in the parking lot, maybe at your car, open up that map, make sure that the data form looks right, that you can zoom in and out, that it's working as expected, close it up and head out to the field and do your data entry. The other thing, so besides this box being really important, the prep side is the sync step at the end of the day. And European cherry fruit fly has a couple of automations that are happening overnight that will cause some updates to the symbol and to the status of these trap sites. So I would recommend synchronizing before leaving for the day to pull that in, and then also synchronizing your data at the end of the day to push the data that you've collected on up to that map service. So if you're hearing me, you're hearing that there's a two-way sync happening. Every time you hit that sync button, it is both pulling new updates into your offline map and pushing the data you've collected up into that offline service. So that sync I would recommend twice a day, but definitely be sure that you're not holding on to data. Be sure that you're completing that sync. And then this is probably a more a reminder for myself, but charging the device, that's probably when you would plug it in for the night or something like that to make sure that it's charged for the next time you go out to collect data. I had a little panic this morning where I realized my iPad was at 20%, and I know some of you users understand that last 20% can kind of drain quickly. So make sure you're keeping your device charged. Don't do as I do. So that's the disconnected workflow, and we want to use that if we can. The data layers look something like this. This is a screenshot directly from my iPad, and Field Maps has a default layer that's called markup. This layer, I would ask your supervisor if you plan to use it in any way. A couple of warnings with it. It is not an official data collection layer, so be very careful not to put any ECFF data in the markup layer. And it really is a private markup, so it is pretty difficult for you to share out what's being marked up there. It's not official, and it stays private to your device. We do have an alternative down below, the map notes points. So I'm just going to walk you through these. The trap schedule status layer updates with over the top of the trap sites with a symbol that tells you what the status of that trap site is, which would be a current trap, one that's due for service, or an inactive trap. And that layer can be turned on and off. You can see here it's defaulted to off. And if you want to see the status of your trap, you can turn that layer on. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But this is just meant to tell you the status of that trap site itself. And this layer is automated overnight to have updates. So from the last date of an activity on a trap site, 14 days later, it will change that status to due for service or due for something, due for an activity visit. And if you enter an activity that trap has been removed, overnight, that automation updates this schedule status symbol to say that it's inactive. It also updates that it updates the field in that data form. So I'll show you that in just a minute, but that's the meaning of this top layer, is just kind of an over-the-top symbology layer to show you the status. Your active layer that you'll be entering data in is this ECFF trap sites 2023. These are this year's trap sites that you'll add data to. And then the map notes points is meant to kind of give you an option to share information, either information or a hazard with other trappers. And this is just meant to be your notes page. And the advantage to this is it is shared across all users. That's also something you should bear in mind. Make sure what you're sharing is appropriate with each other. It could be something like, there's a dog in this yard that you may not see, but comes running out, or this owner is super friendly, or maybe this is a good place to have lunch or park your car. So, or maybe if you've hidden the trap, that could be something that you put there. This is a good place to hide traps. Just be careful that you're adding notes that are really important to the trap sites in the trap sites form. So, so this is here for you to kind of share notes if you need to. And then finally, we have the ECFF trap sites 2022 layer. And this is just meant to give you reference for where trap sites were placed last year. So you can turn that on and kind of review where last year those trap sites were and see those. All right, so a couple things about trapping workflow and how that's entered in this data form. The first visit is seen as placing that trap. And what it does is it takes the actual location, that geo-referenced lat-long location, and actually places a point on the map for you to see. And that's that first visit. There's also a field that asks you for the install date. So this first visit form and the questions asked there are initiating that a trap was actually placed on that first visit. And then all other future visits are related in a related table called the activities table to that initial trap site location. And so to add any activities, you'll select that first placed trap and enter information on that activity. So every single visit, you'll want to enter data into this data form on that activity, the visits activity. Something that kind of gets people a little bit confused sometimes, so we like to cover it, is when you have to relocate a trap. And sometimes when you're out in the field, I know you're just like, okay, pick it up, move it. But again, every single visit to a trap site should have an activity recorded, including a relocation workflow. And so if you think about it, of course, it makes sense. That original spot, you'll be removing the trap. So you want to record that activity that you have removed that trap. And then you can go ahead and, I've got a little dotted line. You can walk to or travel to the new location, and then you would start afresh by placing that trap, right? So that makes sense. Sometimes people think that recording that remove trap activity should mean that that symbol disappears, and that's not the case. In fact, it's really important to our data database that we have on every location the entire history of that trap. So in this case, we would have the entire history of that original spot with the last activity being remove trap. And our overnight automation will update and have check for that remove trap activity. And if you enter that into the database, that automation is going to see that that trap is removed, and it will update that symbology to say that it is now an inactive site. So you will still see that symbol on the map. It'll be symbolized as inactive with the last activity saying remove. So let's dive in. Let me pull up my iPad and give you a view, a camera view, and let's see what that actually looks like. You can see I'm plugged in. I'm making progress. I'm getting close to 100%. So I'm going to go ahead and open Field Maps on my iPad, and I know that I signed into the stage portal. I also, you may have noticed that it pulled me right on in. I didn't have to sign in. Field Maps held on to my sign in, and it also pulled me into the last map that I was looking at, which was OWB. I'm going to go back 2 times to that main map menu, my list of maps that have been shared with me, and I have quite a few, and I know that I signed in to that stage URL. I remember doing that, but I have some signs just staring me right in the face, and you've probably noticed I've got the word training in all of these titles. I have training in many of the thumbnails, so that should tip me off. But if I was at all concerned, I could go to my profile menu, scroll up a bit, and sign out. And I recommend doing that. If you're unsure, just make sure you're in the right spot before you get started entering anything. And then I see ECFF is listed right here. I have offline areas that I've already downloaded. Oops. It's a sensitive iPad here. I'm going to go ahead and open that map card, and I can see that I have 2 things listed here. Now, I've remained connected to Wi-Fi just to show you what you'll see here, and I've got an online map, which I'm only seeing because I'm connected to Wi-Fi, and then I have on device, and I can see the size of this file that I've downloaded. I've renamed it, downloaded it 5 days ago. I could, if I needed to, synchronize from here. I could rename it or remove it. If I wanted to, while connected to Wi-Fi, I also can download more offline areas. So if I need like an adjacent field or whatever, I can go ahead and add an offline area. But if I was really performing in a disconnected workflow, I could disconnect from Wi-Fi and go on out. I'm ready to go. In any case, let's open the offline area and have a look at that. And you can see I've been adding some things. I've got some points here already kind of playing around in this training map just to see how things work. And along the top here, I've got a couple of arrows, one coming in and one going out. That's your sync button. And if I tap that, I want to point out that I have no pending edits. You know, towards the end of your day, you'll have a pretty good list going here. And also the auto sync is disabled. It is off. And you do want to be sure that that's the case. You don't want your device attempting to sync on its own when it wants to automatically. You want to make sure that you perform the sync by coming in and pressing that sync button, or doing that outside where we were a couple screens ago on the map card itself. So you want to be in charge of that. And the reason why is, again, we don't want an interrupted sync. We want to make sure that you're doing that while you're actually connected to Wi-Fi and have a reliable system set up. So we want to make sure that's off. Then this next icon here, this looks like a stack of papers. This is the layers menu. And this should look just like that slide we saw a little bit earlier. These are the layers that you have waiting for you. I have both the current year's trap sites layer on and the map notes points layer on. If I want to turn the trap schedule status layer on, I just toggle it, and you can see what it did to the trap sites is it just updated the status, and that's a check mark for both right now. Well, these are enabled. I'm going to go ahead and show you also this little 3-dot menu or overflow menu has a handy dandy legend. So depending on what layers are selected, I'll select legend, and that's going to tell me what these symbols mean on the screen. So I can see that the trap schedule status, that check mark, is indicating it's current, or we have due and inactive. And then the trap sites themselves, there are two types here, two combos, trap and lure combos. And then the map notes points, the red question mark is a hazard and the blue question mark is info. So that'll tell me what's going on this map, what these things mean if I need a reminder. So in order to, what I'm going to do is turn off the schedule status so that I can actually see this trap lure combo. And in order to place a trap, in order to add data, we're going to hit the add button, which is down here on the lower right. So if I tap this plus button, I'm going to get the options from the layers that are enabled. And you'll remember there's two layers enabled, the trap sites and the map notes points. Let's add a trap site, a new trap site. And right now I'm getting some kind of red messaging. I've got the crosshairs with a red circle and some messaging up here that I'm not meeting GPS accuracy. I'm in my basement. I think we'll get there. It's going to keep trying. And once I do meet accuracy, there we go. Good timing, it turns blue. So I'm now good for GPS accuracy, and you want to make sure that you're reaching that blue, which is a lot easier to get when you're outside. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but that's what you're looking for. You don't want a red messaging for GPS. Let's see, let's choose this yellow sticky card just by tapping it. And you can see right underneath me, I got that yellow symbol. Now I'm going to pull this out just a little bit. We'll pull it out here and update the point there rather than under my GPS point. So you can see this GPS point here is my actual location, that blue dot. And the trap that we're adding is this little yellow square out here. So that's what we're adding information on. It pulled in automatically that trap and lure combo. And now we've got some required fields indicated by that asterisk, the star. We have agency defaulted to pull in. And if we want to change any of these and add the information, we tap on the field and go ahead and add information. So again, you'll want to be sure that you're doing this according to survey protocol. I'm going to use Jenny protocol today. I think I was on test 3. If I want to go to the next field, I can hit next, or I can hit done to close the keyboard and then tap on the next field. I name these the same. And then host gives me a list of hosts to choose from. I can go ahead and just tap the host I believe it should be. Habitat. Let's see, this is actually a ball field, I'll say. If I need to change a defaulted field, I can just tap on that, look for the other choices, and tap the appropriate one. I've got a little hint here, first and last names. Okay, I can do that. First and last. Trap site comments, I'm going to say test just to be sure everyone knows it's not real. The install date opens a calendar for you to choose from. It is restricted to this year. It won't let you go before or after 2023. Something that happens to me though sometimes is maybe scrolling up and down in a rush and I'll end up on the wrong date. And to bring yourself back to today's date, you can tap on this word today and it jumps you right back. And then I like to close the calendar view once I've got my date in place just to make sure I don't again accidentally tap something inappropriate. And then we've got some grouped questions here that are optional. Optional address, we tap that to expand the section. We've got some questions there, can close that up. Same thing with optional contact information, tap to expand, complete what you may or may not have there, and tap again to minimize that grouping. Quality control report, these are updated by GIS and editors. So you'll see this later if you want to look in on a trap and the data there, but you won't enter anything there. And then we give it one more look. Okay, we've placed the trap, I've completed this form, and we tap submit at the top right. And when we tap submit, what we're submitting is we're submitting this as an edit, but it's held in our device, right? Because we're in an offline map. And this sync button kind of changes a little to kind of indicate what's happened. We have a little dot here on the outgoing arrow. And if we look at sync one more time, now we've got a pending edit. And there it is waiting for us. And if we were ready to sync, we would go ahead and sync now. I'm going to leave that for now, but this is a great way for you to kind of review your day and make sure that this makes sense for what the work that you've done for the day. So we've placed a trap. So this trap's been placed, but let's say we have one that's due that needs some consideration. I'll close that up here. Let's say this little pink guy here, this trap lure combo, needs a visit. It's showing that it's due. In order to perform an activity and enter the data on that, we'll want to select that trap site now. And in order to do that, we just tap that trap site on the map. You might have some kind of clustered and need to scroll in or out or zoom in or out and make sure that you have the correct one selected. It shows it's selected with this blue halo and it opens the data form. You might want to check something unique like the trap ID or site name to be sure you have the correct one selected. This is how you might also edit that trap site information. So for instance, let's say the host here is incorrect. I could tap this pencil and go ahead and change that snowberry to dogwood. There we go. And then I would submit that as an edited change. It's also, while it's selected, we have the option here of a link. It looks like a link icon. If we scroll up in this data form, we'll see the option with a little bit more explanation. There's that link, ECFF trap activities. And this is that table where we enter those trap activities. So we've selected the trap site on the map. And now we're going to open up that related table and record that trap activity. So we open up that table. When we want to add an activity, we tap the add button. We can see here, you'd probably have a much longer list, but we have all previous trap activities listed here. So previously on 4/24, this trap was baited, 9:11 a.m. So now we're going to add another activity just by tapping add. It opens a short data form on that trap activity. Same kind of deal. We have some are required. This little star indicates they're required. And we've got a date here to worry about. We have an agency that's pulled in by default. Just to be consistent, I'm going to say I'm a university cooperator again. Can change that. The surveyor, we should probably follow that same standard, first and last name. Activity type. Now, last time it was baited, maybe this time I'll say serviced. If I were to be removing the trap, that would be one of these two options here, either remove trap or removed trap missing. And that's what would then overnight change that symbology on that schedule status layer so that it says it's inactive. So if we pick one of these, that's what will happen the next day. I'm going to go ahead and say serviced. And field sample ID is here and not required. So that would be something you would complete only if you did take a field sample and you have an ID to enter. Comments also not required, but I'm going to put in test. And then the date, once again, this is the same thing as the last date field. I can, if I accidentally type a different date, bring it back to today and close that up. Give it one more look over and looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and submit. So now we've placed a trap, this yellow guy over here, and we also performed a trap activity on this one. And also the trap activity that we performed, we kind of walked through the same thing for, it's kind of a similar workflow, selecting the trap site itself and then being able to edit something if needed. So that's that workflow. Okay. Now, map notes points is another one that I could probably show you something on. And you probably noticed I have a couple of samples here. If I tap on the map note, on the symbol on the map itself, I open up that note. And just for an example, I've got that it's a hazard. Who entered it? That's me, and the date and time. And I just said it's a footbridge over a farmer's ditch. There's lots of wildlife and varied water levels and flow. Maybe I'm saying probably don't put a trap here, it might get disrupted, just for an example. And then my information one over here, this is in the middle of a park. To select that, I just said nice shady park with a public restroom. So make sure that you're, sharing things that might be helpful to either yourself in an area that you kind of forget what's going on there, or maybe for other trappers as well, because this layer is shared among all users. So just be sure that you're using that correctly. Same kind of workflow to add one. So you want to make sure that that layer is enabled, and it is. And then to add a map notes points, you hit the add button, and we have the options here, hazard or info. And I'll say info. And let's see, I'm going to pull it over again over here and update the point. So there we've got a little info question mark, and I'll put in my name, first and last name, as is the pattern. And in the comments field, which this one is required, we want to know what the info is. I'm going to say lots of good parking here. And the next one is the date, and I'm going to go ahead and leave that. So that's just an option here for you to use and see if you can, kind of share some of these notes with each other. If I were to miss something, like I'm going to take out my name, which is a required field, and I think everything looks great. And if I hit submit, I'm going to get a message that says I've missed something. There's an attribute that failed. The attribute that it's talking about is this field that's missing. And if this was a long form and I tapped review, it would pull that up into my view here in the form. But we also have this red required kind of notation. So that's what happens if you miss a required field. You'll get a little ping from that submit option that says, hey, you missed a field, go check this out. So now I've got, if I look back at our sync, I've got 4 edits that we made. We placed a trap, we performed an activity. We placed a trap, we edited another trap. So remember we changed the host, then we performed an activity, and then we added an info point for that map nodes points. So you can see how it just starts listing your edits here. And then in order to sync, well, I'm connected to Wi-Fi now. You'd want to go back at the end of the day, make sure you're connected to Wi-Fi, and then we just tap sync. And I'm going to let that go, but eventually it's going to give me a little green check and go back to that blue that we saw at the beginning that says there's no pending edits. So that's what we're looking for at the end of the day. Alrighty, so we went through that schedule status layer, turning that on and off to see what the status of our traps are. We looked at our trap sites layer. We placed a trap, we edited a trap site. We also had a trap activity, and we even went into that map notes layer and added a little info note for ourselves. So we've covered all of that. Some of the reminders that I think I've covered all of these, but I want to make sure. Just make sure, once again, make sure that you're in the correct map. In fact, I'm going to show you that in just a moment. As soon as we get through this list, it looks different. The map itself looks different, but make sure you've signed in to the official site for official data and to the training maps for fake or play or practice data. Be sure you're using that disconnected data collection. Make sure that you're synchronizing your data regularly. Again, I recommend twice a day if you can, especially with these kind of automations happening overnight, just to make sure that your map is updated as well as the online map. Just keep that synchronized. Be careful with your data collection. I sure hope I don't offend people by saying this. It's really kind of a reminder for myself. Always give that form one more look. I can't tell you how many times I've found an error that just surprises me, and make sure that you're being consistent when you're doing that before you hit that submit button. The map notes layer we used a little bit today. It's kind of new this year. We're trying it out so that you can kind of communicate with each other. Just make sure that it's appropriate. Check with your supervisor on how you want to use that layer, but it is official. You may use that layer to kind of communicate information or hazards with each other. Conversely, the markup layer is not an official data collection layer. It's just kind of an automatic default with the app itself. So be a little extra careful with that layer if you choose to use it. It's not official, and it stays kind of only to yourself. It's very hard to share that information out. The submit button fail we did see also. If you miss a required field, it's going to ping you and try to kind of instruct you back into the right field that you need to complete. So all of that said, I want to show you what my iPhone looks like. So let me pause and open that up for you. Okay. And here we go. I'm going to keep the iPad below it so that you can compare the map views. And I'm just going to go ahead and open Field Maps. And I know that I am signed in on my iPad. We tested this out in the stage environment. So we have the training map open. And as a comparison on my iPhone, I'm signed into our production portal. So the official data should be entered here. And I'm going to go ahead and search ECFF. And there we are, there's our official map. You can see it doesn't say training anywhere, right, on the map title or on this little thumbnail photo. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. I don't have an offline area created on my iPhone, but you should, and it should look exactly the same as the iPad. And so you can kind of see the difference already. It takes a lot longer it's taking a while to load. The offline area just opens because it just already all the time was taken in downloading that in the first place. I also don't have this synchronize icon here, so you don't see those arrows. That's because it's going to try to sync live or dynamically constantly. But right away you can see the difference in the maps. So the official map has imagery. You can see the trees, you see that little agriculture field, all of that. And our training map is just this light gray background. So that's the difference right away, right off the bat. You'll have the same layers when you open this layer. It's still kind of loading. If you open the layer menu, it kind of half screens you and keeps the map view at the top half, but you can tap and pull this for a bigger view, or even tap and pull down for a little less view, keep it kind of minimized there, or exit out of it entirely. And the legend is also here for you, depending on the layers that you have enabled. There they are. And if you want to add data, same kind of method, this little plus sign here at the bottom right corner, hit that plus button, and according to the layers enabled, you have the options to add different traps. I'm not going to add one, but I'm going to go into the form just a little bit and then discard it. But adding that that trap site, it places it right under me. I've got pretty good GPS accuracy going in my basement here. And this form here, I can also pull up and scroll through, just same form as our training map. And also I can, you know, minimize it down and zoom in and out on the map to make sure that I'm looking at what I need. And then once I was done, I would hit submit just like we would in this training map on the iPad. So really iPhone, iPad, same, except for you're kind of got less real estate on the screen. So you're sharing the screen between the map and the data form a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel because remember, we don't put fake data or play data in the official map. So we're following our own rules there. But that's the view between for those of you who use iPhones to collect data. Alrighty, we went through the reminders. Lastly, getting help. We might have gone through all kinds of cool things and feel pretty confident, but you never know when you might need a little extra help. So for the European Cherry Fruit Fly program, all fruit fly programs, Shaharra Usnick is your National Operations Manager. That's where you want to go for survey protocol questions, anything survey or program related. iPad or iPhone issues, that is supported by CECIT. You want to go to them for support. Accessing these maps in the first place or having a role that allows you to add data or any issues similar to that, start with your supervisor. Your supervisor has to approve your access to the portal, your role, your ability to edit. They also have to approve the map that you have access to. So go to your supervisor first. They may go to the local field GIS specialist that supports your area, and or they might also email this webgis.connect at usda.gov. This email is supported by a few kind of a group. So any kind of oddities there, you've got these resources here for you. Anything related to end user tools training, go to that mobile data collection tools webpage. We really try to make sure that you can find it on your own wherever you are anytime. So make sure you're making use of that webpage. If you don't see it there, please let us know. If you need something and you are not seeing a resource, please reach out and let us know. We want to make sure that you can get that there. And finally, make sure that let's see, we went through all of these, we signed in, we overviewed the disconnected workflow, we had a demo with the layers and the data forms, and we went through reminders. But as a final ping, remember to test yourself. I'm going to put these links in the chat one more time for those who may have joined a little after I put them in. Let me add both the mobile data collection tools webpage and the link to the quiz for today's training. Take a moment. It's really, really helpful to make sure that you test yourself while things are fresh. And And having said that, then I'll say, like, do you have any questions? Is there anything regarding the European cherry fruit fly trapping program data entry that you've seen that maybe went too fast, or any questions that you all have? You are, go
Hi,
ahead, Stephen, go ahead.
Jenny. I just wanted to ask you, is there, why would you choose baited over serviced as an activity? Is that kind of at our discretion at the program level, or is there a substantial difference?
That's a good question, Stephen. And that is not a how do you enter data question. That is a survey protocol question.
Got you.
So I'm really glad that you asked it, because that's an excellent example of something that you would want to go to Shaharra Usnick about. You may have a supervisor who knows the answer to that, but ultimately, that is the surveys protocol, which you would choose. That would be the surveys, the program's place to decide. So I'm
Gotcha.
sorry, I don't have the
No,
answer to.
it's okay. Thank you. I will ask. I appreciate you.
Yeah, but I hate to not have the answer. I always hate that, but that's a really great question to ask here, and thank you for doing that. Perfect example of a survey question. Anybody else? Anything else?
Hi, Jenny. This is Christine. I just have a quick question about the timing of the dating cycle, if you know how that was programmed.
Yes, so the timing of that automation, thanks, that's a great question. The timing of that automation for a trap then becoming due for service, that has also been initiated by the program itself. So Shaharra weighed in based on the survey protocol that the traps should be serviced every 14 days or after 14 days. And so that's been added in there to kind of give you all in the field a little hint, hey, this trap needs some attention. If you have any other questions, I'll let Vlad go ahead and answer that. Go ahead, Vlad.
Well, while developing this field map for Shaharra, I was told that it is recommended that the trap site is visited for monitoring activity every 14 days. So that's a kind of the concept that I was given while developing the application.
Thanks, Vlad. Well put. Thank you.
And Shaharra also realized that not every PPQ office has a full staff to perform European cherry fruit fly trapping. That's why it's not obligatory to do it every 14 days, but it is recommended.
Great. Okay, so it's meant as a reminder and as like a service, so that you understand, oh, this one says it's due and this one is okay. Thanks, Vlad. That really helps.
Also, I would like to add that that's a nationwide map. Last year, we've seen data collected by Michigan, Pennsylvania, and I believe New York as well. But it is a nationwide map, and all the other states are more than welcome to use it. But it depends on Shaharra's decision what other states will join this year.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I'm going to leave you with just this screen and my name and information. My team is happy to support even a question that's a survey protocol question. If you're unsure where it lies, you're welcome to address it with us at any point. We really want you to find success and feel confident using these apps. And we are happy to point you in the right direction. Even if I don't know the answer, I will certainly point you to the right person to answer that. So just remember, survey protocol questions are really directed through Shaharra Usnick. And anything at all that comes up, any questions you have, if you're not finding the answers quickly, please reach out to us. We want to help you. We want you to find success. And so at any point at all. But I'll leave you the rest of your time for today. And thank you so much for being here and taking this in with us and asking questions openly. I appreciate it. So good luck out there and have a good rest of your day, everybody. Thanks so much.